Imagine living in a world where your beliefs make you an outsider, where holding on to peace and community puts you at odds with the society around you. This was the reality for Mennonites in 16th century Europe, a people seeking a way to live peacefully, simply, and separately from the violent conflicts of their time. Persecuted, uprooted, and constantly searching for a place to call home, Mennonites were driven by a vision: to find a land where they could live in harmony with their beliefs. Their journey to America is not just a migration story, it's a testament to resilience, faith, and the quest for freedom. The roots of Mennonite identity begin in the early 1500s amid the Protestant Reformation. While Martin Luther, John Calvin, and others were challenging the Catholic Church, a group called the Anabaptists emerged with an even more radical vision. They believed that faith was deeply personal and that baptism should be a choice made by adults. They rejected infant baptism, advocating for believers' baptism instead. This marked them as different and, in the eyes of many, dangerous. The Anabaptists preached a simple, peaceful life that rejected violence and swearing oaths, teachings that were often seen as a threat to state and church authority. This peaceful, separate way of life did not sit well with European authorities. Anabaptists faced relentless persecution across Switzerland, the Netherlands, Germany, and beyond. They endured torture, imprisonment, and execution. Yet, amidst this turmoil, Menno Simons, a former Catholic priest, became a guiding light for these persecuted believers. His teachings crystallized the movement's ideals of pacifism, humility, and community, and those who followed him became known as Mennonites. By the late 16th century, Mennonites were scattered across Europe, continually searching for regions where they could live freely. Some found temporary refuge in Switzerland, Germany, and the Netherlands, but true stability was elusive. The political climate in these regions was always shifting, and tolerance was often granted only under strict conditions or with high taxes levied upon Mennonites. In Prussia, Mennonites found a temporary haven. Invited by rulers who saw value in their agricultural skills, they developed prosperous farming communities. Yet even in Prussia, they remained outsiders, facing restrictions on land ownership, marriage rights, and eventually the threat of conscription, a direct conflict with their pacifist beliefs. Despite these challenges, Mennonite communities in Prussia thrived, fostering a strong work ethic and communal support that would later influence Mennonite settlements in the United States. By the late 1600s, America emerged as a potential sanctuary for Mennonites. Stories of religious freedom and abundant land made their way to Europe, carried by letters and news of the New World's openness. Pennsylvania, founded by William Penn on Quaker principles of tolerance and peace, offered Mennonites a chance to practice their faith openly. This drew the first wave of Mennonites to the American colonies, with the initial group arriving in 1683 and founding Germantown, Pennsylvania. The journey across the Atlantic was no small feat. Mennonite families sold all they owned to pay for passage, often enduring cramped quarters, limited food, and illness during the weeks-long voyage. Despite the hardships, the promise of religious freedom and a fresh start made the journey worth the risk. Upon arrival, Mennonites wasted no time in setting up farming communities, utilizing skills honed over generations to cultivate the fertile land. They built schools, meeting houses, and close-knit communities, creating a space where they could freely live out their beliefs. In America, Mennonites faced new challenges but also found new freedoms. They were able to maintain their language, worship practices, and traditional ways of life without the interference they had faced in Europe. Their communities emphasized self-sufficiency and a strong work ethic, qualities that enabled them to thrive as they adapted to life in the American colonies. As the United States grew, Mennonites expanded westward, seeking more farmland and space for their communities. They settled in places like Ohio, Indiana, and later Kansas, where they could maintain their agrarian way of life. Each move allowed them to preserve their faith and values while contributing to the agricultural landscape of their new homeland. In the 19th century, a fresh wave of Mennonites arrived from Russia. These Mennonites had initially migrated to Russia in the late 1700s, invited by Catherine the Great, who offered them land and exemptions from military service. Over time, political changes in Russia threatened these privileges, and many Mennonites faced pressure to conform or be conscripted. Hearing of the freedom and opportunities in America, these Mennonites made their way to the Great Plains, bringing with them skills and a unique variety of wheat, hard winter wheat, that thrived in the region's climate. This crop transformed farming in the Midwest, earning Mennonites recognition as pioneers of America's breadbasket. While some Mennonite groups remained closely tied to their traditional ways, others gradually adapted to modern society, forming diverse branches within the Mennonite community. Each branch maintained core values, but varied in their approach to modern technology, dress, and integration with American society. Old Order Mennonites, for example, continued to live simply, often forgoing electricity and cars, while others embraced some aspects of modern life while maintaining a strong sense of community. Throughout these variations, Mennonites preserved a commitment to peace, community, and mutual aid. They set up mutual aid societies, supporting each other through life's hardships, and created schools and charities that aligned with their beliefs. These mutual aid practices were early forms of what we now recognize as social welfare, offering a safety net within the community that reflected their belief in caring for one another. Mennonites have long been committed to peace, and their history in America reflects this dedication. During wars, Mennonites faced challenges as pacifists, often opting to serve in civilian roles rather than enlist. Some worked in hospitals, farms, and forestry as alternative service, showcasing their commitment to contributing positively to society without compromising their values. In the modern era, Mennonite humanitarian efforts have expanded globally. Through organizations like the Mennonite Central Committee, they have provided relief and development support worldwide, helping communities recover from disasters, war, and poverty. Their work is a reflection of the Mennonite belief in service and charity, a legacy that has earned respect and admiration far beyond Mennonite communities. Upon settling in America, Mennonites were instrumental in developing and enhancing agricultural practices. Their expertise in farming, passed down through generations, not only sustained their communities, but also transformed the agricultural landscape. Mennonites practiced crop rotation, animal husbandry, and sustainable farming long before these were widely adopted in America. The introduction of hard winter wheat by Mennonites from Russia led to increased productivity in the Great Plains, transforming Kansas and neighboring states into key agricultural centers. Their dedication to the land and innovative farming methods made them agricultural pioneers, setting a standard for efficiency and environmental stewardship that influences American farming practices today. One of the defining characteristics of the Mennonite migration was their dedication to preserving their language and heritage. Many Mennonites continued to speak German, not just in their homes, but in their schools, churches, and publications. This linguistic consistency created a sense of continuity and identity, even as they adapted to a new country. By the late 1800s, however, external pressures led many Mennonite communities to adopt English, especially as they began to interact more with surrounding communities and public institutions. Yet pockets of Mennonite groups in America today still speak dialects of German, such as Pennsylvania Dutch, serving as a living link to their European roots. Another area where Mennonites left their mark was in community-based welfare. From their earliest settlements, Mennonites operated mutual aid societies that provided financial assistance, medical care, and support for members in need. These mutual aid structures were ahead of their time, acting as a form of social safety net that prioritized community care over individualism. This communal approach influenced the development of cooperative practices in American society, especially within farming and rural communities, and inspired other religious and social groups to adopt similar forms of support. As they settled in areas across Pennsylvania, Ohio, and later the Midwest, Mennonites often came into contact with indigenous peoples. Unlike many other European settlers, Mennonites' peaceful, respectful approach to land ownership and use sometimes facilitated more harmonious relations. Their practice of non-violence and respect for community boundaries meant they were often seen as less threatening by indigenous tribes. Although historical records on Mennonite-indigenous interactions are limited, there are accounts of trade and cooperative farming practices that hint at mutual respect between the two groups, showcasing an often overlooked aspect of early American settlement. The Mennonite emphasis on simplicity, modesty, and sustainability has unexpectedly resonated with segments of modern American counterculture. The plain lifestyle associated with Old Order Mennonites, who often avoid modern conveniences like cars and electricity, has found admirers among those advocating for minimalism and eco-conscious living. Some people, inspired by Mennonite values, have embraced aspects of this lifestyle in their own ways, from homesteading to adopting slower, more intentional living. This influence reflects how Mennonite values have subtly seeped into broader American culture, appealing to those seeking alternatives to mainstream consumerism. Many Mennonite communities continue to speak Low German, a dialect they brought from Europe. This dialect is a cultural marker, distinguishing Mennonites from other groups and connecting them to their historical roots. In American Mennonite communities, Low German is often spoken at home and in church services, maintaining a linguistic continuity that's rare among immigrant communities. By preserving this language, Mennonites reinforce their cultural identity and pass their heritage down to new generations, even in the midst of a predominantly English-speaking society. While Old Order Mennonites continue to live without modern conveniences such as cars, electricity, and smartphones, other Mennonite groups have adopted varying degrees of technology. This diversity reflects the adaptability within Mennonite communities as they navigate modern society. Many Mennonite-run businesses, for example, have adopted digital tools to manage operations, and some churches even use online platforms to reach broader audiences while staying true to their religious values. Mennonites have earned a reputation as leaders in peace-building and conflict resolution, largely through the work of the Mennonite Central Committee. This organization has been involved in global peace efforts since the 1920s, offering aid and conflict mediation in war-torn areas and engaging in social justice work in the U.S. Mennonite colleges, such as Eastern Mennonite University, have also become known for their peace and conflict studies programs, attracting students from around the world who are interested in non-violent solutions to global issues. Mennonites have long been environmental stewards, viewing the land as a sacred trust. Their emphasis on sustainable farming and minimalistic lifestyles aligns with modern environmentalism, though their practices are rooted in religious conviction rather than political or social movements. Mennonite farms, known for minimal use of pesticides and sustainable practices, are now recognized as models for environmentally friendly agriculture. Some Mennonite communities have even engaged in reforestation projects, planting trees to offset environmental degradation. and have been active in promoting clean water and conservation efforts locally. Although most Mennonites are rural-based, many have found ways to live out their faith in urban settings, balancing traditional values with the realities of modern urban life. Urban Mennonites are often engaged in social work, education and healthcare, fields that allow them to continue their commitment to service. In cities, Mennonite churches often become centers for community service, providing food, shelter, and support for marginalized populations. This expansion into urban environments illustrates the adaptability of Mennonite values to diverse settings, further demonstrating their lasting impact on American society. Today, Mennonite communities continue to evolve. While some groups remain closely connected to traditional practices, others have embraced modernity, balancing their heritage with engagement in broader society. This diversity within Mennonite culture allows them to adapt to changing times while preserving the essence of their beliefs. They are involved in various fields: agriculture, education, healthcare and social services, bringing their values of humility, hard work, and compassion to all they do. Mennonites in America are known for their craftsmanship, hospitality, and commitment to peace and service. Their journey, from the persecution-filled days of early Europe to the open fields of Pennsylvania and the Midwest, is a testament to the strength of their convictions. Their contributions to American agriculture, culture, and society reflect the lasting impact of their values. The Mennonite journey to America is a story that continues to inspire. It's a story of faith, resilience, and the pursuit of a life that honors simplicity, community, and peace. And while their journey to America may be complete, the Mennonite legacy of service, humility, and integrity remains a vibrant part of the American cultural fabric, reminding us of the power of living in alignment with one's beliefs.